Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph LaBella.
And I'm Ron Sen. First, we'll talk about the craziness that's sports. Serena Williams made it to the U.S. Open finals and disagreed vehemently with the referee, ultimately lost to Naomi Osaka, who, she apparently came to the United States at age 3, is of Haitian and Japanese origin, but she's a 5'11", big athletic woman. And somehow it's gotten crazy as far as the officiating, which appears to be handled quite differently in women's tennis versus men's tennis, or at least in this particular event. And it's hard to understand on what basis the difference exists. And I doubt the official who made the call is going to be available for interviews.
But the main thing, Ron, right? And I have always said this. I mean, they're doing as much as they can for the women in tennis. They're trying to make it even with the men.
Right.
Where the men could play up to 5 sets, the women can play up to 3 sets the most. A lot of their matches are 2 sets. A lot of the men's matches are 4 sets or 5. Some of the women's matches go 3 sets. But they're getting equal money. So the men are getting $3.6 million for winning championship. The women are getting $3.6 million. Serena Williams puts on a show and a half during the championship match. Show and a half, and she brings up that you're treating us different than the men. I would look at her and tell her to shut up if I was one of her advisors. If you win, you're getting $3.6 million, and you're not playing as much, as long as men are playing. That's the whole series, the whole tournament. So every match you're playing, the men are playing usually 2 more sets than the women, but they're getting paid equally. So now she puts on a show. She was a disgrace during that match, becomes a true disgrace in the match. He was giving her signs. I watched it. He was doing this and telling her, and that's a sign, all right? And they all do it. So he warns her that she doesn't lose a point, nothing. Then a little later, she smashes her racket because the girl's outplaying her. She's outplaying her, so she smashes her racket. That's the second warning. On the second warning, you lose 1 point. So, what was her name, the girl from Japan?
Osaka.
Osaka is up 15-love in the next set because of that. So she starts off 15-love. I mean, it's the second warning. They know that. She knows if she smashes her racket, and she smashed her racket in front of, 18,000 people, a lot of kids. And then she puts on a show, goes up to the ref and says, say you're sorry, because he gave her a warning originally without a loss of point. Gives her a warning, say you're sorry. She's looking at this umpire about 5 times, say you're sorry. So he doesn't say he's sorry because she's wrong. So then she said, you cheated me, and then she called him a thief or something like that. Right? Then he says, okay, that's a game. You lose a game. So instead of it being 4-3, it's now 5-3.
Well, I would just say that growing up in the Ili Nastase, Jimmy Connors era, that was certainly not unusual to see that type of argument. I mean, Connors is famous for his "Are you kidding me?" statements, and a number of the male tennis players came out, including James Blake, who said, "I've said a lot worse things to officials who never said anything." So it's always a question on how much you can get away with when you're arguing with officials.
Well, nowadays the rules changed. The rules have changed. I mean, back then they would have got thrown. They would have lost a set. They probably would have been disqualified if the rules were the same back then as they are now.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. As far as the compensation for winning goes, I think that always relates to sponsorship, attendance, all the peripherals that go along with being a professional athlete. If you sell a lot of gear, if you sell a lot of tennis dresses, whatever, you're bringing money into the sport.
But what I'm saying is it's equal. They're saying they're treating the women different than the men. They're
Well,
not.
she's
Well,
saying-
look about WNBA. They're making $300,000, Stewart, the best female basketball player, $300,000 compared to $41 million for the men. You talk about equal.
Well, they have a very different season. They have a short
No,
season.
but what I'm saying is, I mean, she shouldn't be complaining about, they're not treated the same as the men are treated, because they are treated the same.
Well, I think she's saying that officiating-wise, they're not treated the same, and other men have spoken up on behalf of her saying, yeah, we've pushed it a lot harder than that.
Of course they're gonna. Political correctness nowadays. You kidding me?
Well, the question of political correctness is whether something's politically correct or accurate. So anyway, so I guess we're not going to get anywhere there. The Celtics, number 15 or 14 player on the roster, Jabari Bird, is under police supervision in hospital after something that sounds like an assault or an alleged assault and alleged kidnapping or I don't know what the right term is, holding against your will. And you have to wonder what is going on there. Obviously, from an impact on the Celtics, he's not going to have a big impact on the Celtics, whether he's here or not here.
Was he
So,
charged with strangulation or suffocation too?
I don't know what he's charged with.
I know it's AB domestic and it's kidnapping, and there was another charge. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but kidnapping could be she wants to leave,
Right.
and he won't let her leave. That happens a lot in a lot of
Sure.
cases, and they're charged with kidnapping. Even if it's 1 minute, they'll still charge him if that comes out. So, but I mean, what a future he had. I mean, he's just beginning. He's with all that talent. He goes and does something like that. Could be a mental health situation.
Right.
though.
He has a contract for $1.5 million this year that apparently was guaranteed. Now I don't know I don't know if there's any clauses in your contract as far as morals, arrests, et cetera, that can invalidate that. I know from a salary cap standpoint, the Celtics are on the hook for that money.
Yeah, it is too bad. I mean, yeah, I was so high on him.
Well,
I mean, he's got the ups when he goes to the basket, stays in the air, can finish.
well, to me, you have to think that there's something mentally off with somebody who does that. Now, whether they're on street drugs, who knows? Whether he has another mental health problem. It's just hard to imagine anyone who is thinking clearly and making that sort of assault and error that, obviously we know the story of Aaron Hernandez. We're going to pay you $8 million a year, just don't kill anybody. Well, he couldn't do that.
But in that case there, you don't know what happened, but it could be not so bad where they got an argument. She wanted to leave the house. He held her arm, says, no, stay here. I want to talk to you. She breaks away, calls the police. That's AB domestic. He grabbed her arm, wouldn't let her leave for a minute, and that's kidnapping. I'm not saying that happened,
Right.
but we don't know what happened. If it's a serious situation where he hit her, he should be gone.
Now, let's say he has some serious mental health problem, no drugs involved, and he's committed a crime while impaired because of a mental health problem, then how does that impact the whole look? Not that I don't think it's going to affect his basketball status. The Celtics are going to probably cut him anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if it's serious enough, like I said, there's a chance it may not be. I don't know. A grab or a push, which isn't right, but that's a little different than striking someone, if they're having an argument. And maybe they both grabbed each other. We don't know yet.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about the National Football League before we get to the Patriots, whenever we get to that. And it was kind of an interesting beginning. We still have some going on. The Jets play tonight, and I think everybody wants to see how Sam Darnold does.
Yeah, he's good. He's talented, I'll tell you.
I didn't see the hit on Aaron Rodgers.
No.
But Khalil Mack, who has his own issues coming over from Oakland to Chicago, I think he had a sack, an interception, forced fumble recovery. I mean, the guy is like Superman out there. And you have to wonder what the plan is in Oakland. Now, I don't really disagree in the sense that if you pay a high percentage of your roster to one player, it's going to compromise your ability to have depth elsewhere.
That had to be Gruden's thinking. You know, I mean, look at all these top players that are getting all this money. I mean, they're not on winning teams, a lot of them. You know, and he had to be thinking, you know, we're not going to give him up to close to $20 million. You know, let's get 2 first-round picks and see what happens. It's more of a team game. You know, so I don't...
Well, he's been broadcasting a long time, and he's probably seen the Patriots have the most amount of money committed to the middle class and the bottom of the roster as opposed to the top. Now, some of that is because they have Tom Brady, who maybe get compensated differently because he has a supermodel wife who's a multi-billionaire, or whatever it is. She's got plenty of money, and that is not something that other teams have the same advantage.
But look at the Patriots with Collins. They let Collins go. Browns give him, I think he was the highest paid outside linebacker in football. Look at Jones. Jones is one of the highest paid defensive ends in football. They let him go, you know, for a draft pick. So, you know, the Patriots' philosophy is, you know, we're not going to give big money to one person. You know, that's been their philosophy all along. Maybe Gruden's seeing that, and that's why he let Matt go.
Well, I think the Patriots are doing it the right way, although, you know, in real money spent, they sometimes end up looking cheap because they always have salary cap room. They always say they're rolling it into the next batch of contracts and so forth, but when they analyze real dollars spent, you see where they are. And they seem to have a cap on coaches. They have fewer coaches than most teams in the league. Brian Flores, the de facto defensive coordinator, isn't labeled the defensive coordinator, so they don't pay him at that level. And you know, as I always say, you don't get to be a billionaire by throwing your money away. And certainly Robert Kraft is approaching $4 billion, so hey, more power to him.
Yeah, but you know, you get back to Mac, right? Remember when the Patriots played them last year, Mac didn't do anything, right, in that game?
No.
Patriots handled him pretty good.
No, you know, I don't blame Oakland for, I mean, they couldn't sign him, or they chose not to sign him, and they did get 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
So that's not so bad.
And look at the Patriots. They got a 3rd and a 2nd for Jones and Collins.
Right.
You know?
And then they got a 2nd for Garoppolo. Garoppolo yesterday didn't have a very effective game, had 3 interceptions and a quarterback rating in the mid-40s. So, I mean, it's one game, so trying to make too much on sample size is hard. What's his name? Andrew Luck came back, and the Colts lost, I believe.
Yeah.
It was his comeback, so the Colts lost. You know, in my fantasy football league, I did terrible as far as picking the winners. So what do I know?
You're in a fantasy football
We
league?
just pick against the spread. There's no great prize. Nobody's retiring to the Caribbean on the prize.
I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to tonight's game, though, Detroit. It's going to be a good matchup. You know, Detroit and the Jets. I mean, just to know in that, I want to see Donald, and I want to see Detroit, see how good their defense is now.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it goes with Patricia in Detroit. A lot of Patriots players are saying that with Flores, he's simplified the defense, decreased the number of responsibilities that people have, and they understand the defense better. Whether that's the case or not, time's going to tell.
Did you watch Butler yesterday?
No, I saw that he had an interception and a pass breakup, and
And he got burnt one time.
okay,
So, I mean, I didn't see it. That's what I heard.
right.
You know, but I would have figured that he'd come out a lot better than last year. He was down on Belichick last year. He didn't play to his best ability. I mean, just seeing him last year, you get in the Tennessee game, you know, in the Jacksonville game, he was bad. I'd rather see the defensive backs now with Rowe as their number 2 cornerback, and then Jones as their number 3 cornerback.
Right. The secondary is one. The secondary should be one of their strengths, but they're faster. They're younger. Bentley had a really good game yesterday. The young linebacker from Purdue.
He was really good.
Yeah, he was second on the team in tackles. He seemed to be able to stick his nose in there, and even when he got outside in coverage, they weren't able to get the ball to his guy. So I guess he was covering him close enough.
Who's their best linebacker right now? I'd say Van Noy.
Yeah, probably is Van
He's
Noy.
playing he's getting better and better.
He's pretty mobile. And Hightower, he still looks pretty rusty out there.
But he's hitting, which I like.
Yeah,
because he's coming up in the middle. He's really hitting.
I mean, he had the fumble recovery, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of lessons that were dispensed yesterday. The first is, like in basketball, is don't turn the ball over. And it was the first play from scrimmage for the Texans. They had a bumbled exchange in the backfield, and the Patriots recovered. There were a lot of instances where the Patriots' offense looked pretty poor. But when they got in field position, and you have Gronkowski, who's unbelievable weapon. What can you say about the guy?
I would look to him first. I know. I was watching Brady. A lot of times he doesn't look to Gronk first because he figures he's getting double teamed. He might see the defense. But a couple of times you see Gronk on short yardage, 3rd and short. One time he was wide open. Brady never even looked at his side. He looked to the left. He made that pass to White that was like 5 yards too far. But I thought Brady was very good.
Yeah.
The offensive line run.
Right.
The offensive line is going to be strong all year.
Yeah, if they can stay healthy. You know, Cannon was in rotation because he's probably not in shape.
With Waddle.
Right. And then Trent Brown was very solid. You know, for the most part, they were able to keep Watt at bay until later in the game.
Watt never plays good against them.
Well.
And where were the other two guys?
Yeah, Clowney.
Clowney was one time. He made one play.
And
Merciless. He didn't do anything merciless.
So the Patriots did pretty well there. Another key lesson was how to use your timeouts or your challenges. The Patriots had an unsuccessful challenge. I don't know what it looked like on replay. It was really close.
Yeah.
And probably
that
not
was the
enough
right call.
Probably not enough to overturn. And then Gronkowski made I don't think Gronkowski caught the ball, but Houston didn't challenge.
Well, here's the play, right? And a couple of people thought that he didn't catch it. When he dove, right, he bobbled the ball, caught it, turned over, and then he had possession of the ball, and the tip of the ball hit the ground. But if you have possession of the ball and the tip of the ball hits the ground, that's a reception. It's when you at the same time when the ball's hitting the ground and you grab it, it's not, but he had control of the ball with two hands.
Well, I think we're going to have to see what the learning curve is this year on what's a catch versus what's not a catch. Because whatever our experience was in the past, I think they're trying to, if they're calling it a catch, they want it to be a catch. They don't want everything overturned on micrometers.
But no, what bothered me in that game, now you can't get a running start on kickoffs.
Right, and that was another point where the Patriots really made an error. They like to kick it high and let the coverage get down there, but the coverage isn't getting down. Right.
No, we're watching the game. I'm watching the game. There's about 10 of us watching the game. And they're saying, geez, their kickoff team, they're not as good as last year. They were always done.
They don't get a running start.
So I said to them, they're not getting a running start. It's a new rule.
Right. So I
So
think
you think like Gronkowski, I think one time he kicked it out. He kicked it where they couldn't return it.
Right. I think that they're going to have to. They're going to look at that on film, and they're going to say, we're just going to kick it out of the end zone.
But wouldn't you think Belichick would be smart enough?
Yeah, I thought that was.
I don't know if there was something wrong with his leg, that he was just kicking it to the goal line.
Well, the last kickoff, Gronkowski had the ball leaned way back like he wanted to pop it up in the air. So I think that was the intent. I just think it's a bad strategy right now because they don't get a running start.
It's a terrible strategy. Hopefully they learn that because, last year they were getting them most of the time before they got to the 20-yard line. This year they were getting to the 30-yard line of passing.
Well, I think they got past the 30 every single time.
Well, I think one time was the 20. I think the first one it was like the 28-yard line, but then everyone after that was past the 30.
Right. We'll be right back with more Patriots discussion. Welcome back. Continuing our Patriots discussion, there's so much emphasis on situational football, and you saw it the last play of the game, the Hail Mary defense. Gronkowski was the first player on the field practically on that. He knows that he's going to go back there and just bat the ball down. The wind was in Watson's face, and he had to throw the ball 60 yards. It was nowhere close to the end zone.
No, and then we all said that. There's no way he's going to reach the end zone from where he is.
Right. So, but there were plays up to that. First of all, the Riley McCarron punt muff, and Ralph and I were discussing what's the fate of Riley McCarron. To me, there's two issues. Okay, he didn't catch the punt. Well, the first thing is he shouldn't have been trying to return it. He should have just been catching it for a fair catch. He fair caught everyone up to that point, including one where there weren't defenders within 5 yards, and they had multiple defenders right on him when he was trying to catch the ball. What are you thinking? Are you trying to make a play here? Trying to be a hero? It was very reminiscent of Chris Harper a few years ago at Denver, fumbling a punt. And
they were up 2 scores then in the fourth quarter.
Right. So it was just so similar. And, I have to think that it's probably adios Riley McCarron.
Yeah, I don't think he's going. They won the game. He caught every other one, maybe the other 6, whatever it was. Fine. This one hit his mask. If they lost the game, he was gone.
Yeah, I was at the game, and it was pretty windy. It was interesting in that it was gusting, and you could see the punts when they were kicked. They were kind of fluttering all over the place. So it wasn't an easy day to return punts. But I just think that the Patriots usually excel at situational football. Now it's just not only a poor decision, but terrible execution.
Once again, remember last show I said that Brady covers for a lot of Belichick's mistakes? I mean, to let Amendola leave, I don't care what everybody says, well, they're not going to give him $6 million a year for 2 years. He would have taken $4 million from the Patriots. They could have given him $4 million for the next 2 or 3 years. They let a guy like him go, Ron. I can't get over that.
Well, I think they made a miscalculation on other guys like Britt and Malcolm Mitchell, thinking that he was going to get healthy someday.
But, I don't know what people are thinking. Everybody I talked to about Amendola, I think I'm the only one who's really upset about this. Everybody else I talked to say, well, they couldn't give him $6 million. He's showing that in Miami he won't be that good. Brady loved him. He always got to the right spot. And he was forget Gronk, forget Edelman, forget Welker. He's been the most clutch receiver in all the years Brady has played with the Patriots. When I talk about clutches in the big games, he's always there with the big play, always knows how to get open. Imagine Brady now with Dorsett now, and you have Amendola there, you have Gronk, they have the backs, and then Edelman's coming back with the receivers he would have. They would have the best receiving core in football, and they're not speedsters, except for Dorsett.
The Patriots' philosophy is always to get rid of a guy a year too soon rather than a year too late. Now, Amendola hadn't shown any sign of drop-off in play, and in fact,
he's getting better.
He'd participated more than he had when he was younger. So I'm not making that argument. I'm going to be interested to see what happens when Edelman comes back, because at least in the preseason, he was dropping the ball a lot. And I think that's a subtle sign that you've taken too many hits. And whether it's affecting your head or whether it's the psychology of knowing you're going to get hit, it'll be really interesting.
But as great as Brown was, Welker, Edelman, Amendola in the big games is the best receiver he's ever had, Brady has ever had. He's getting better and better. I mean, averaging 9 receptions a game in the playoffs. Last year, you having 9 receptions in the Super Bowl, I believe it was.
Oh, Branch was really clutch too in multiple years. So we'll see how it goes. The upside was that
plus a great punt returner, right?
Yeah. The upside yesterday was Philip Dorsett, who was previously kind of a one-trick pony. He could run deep routes. He worked on his short and intermediate routes and showed that yesterday. Was able to get 7 catches for 66 yards. Did really well. A couple times really faked guys out of their shoes to get open.
That one move he made on the right sideline, that was an unbelievable. I mean, he's real good, but he needs another receiver.
Right.
I don't know what's going on with Hogan, but
well, Hogan didn't get any separation whatsoever, and that's why you saw James White getting, and Devlin also had a pretty big day on receiving for him.
What are they going to do with their running backs now? Michelle better come back, and I know he has the
Well, Hill is out for the season with an ACL. So
And that's a shame on Gronk's fumble.
Right. Hill had played really well. He showed that he had some receiving skills. He'd run well. He's a good pass blocker. And, I know you have some people like Michael Felger who just says you can just grab anybody off the street and make him an NFL running back. I don't think it's quite that simple, especially in the Patriots offense.
They have to find someone. Gillisley signed with someone.
Well, they have Ralph Webb on the practice squad, but he doesn't look like a blocker.
Was he number 37 or 27 during the year?
I think he was 35 in the preseason. There's one game, I swear.
One guy looked really good.
Yeah, no, he's a
white guy. The white guy looked really good, but I don't know what happened to him.
Anyway, Webb was a running back from Vanderbilt's on the practice squad, so he's one candidate to step up. And the other concern we had was the defensive line against. It looked like it was a run-pass option, but they mostly ran, and they were
second half especially.
Right now, whether it was fatigue or whether they had the run stoppers out of the game, thinking that the Texans were going to pass, I really don't know. But there were just so many 7, 8, 9-yard first down runs by Miller. Miller's a pretty good back.
They'll be all right, though. They have their front seven is strong this year.
Well, and the Jaguars are a strong running team. Now, was Fournette injured yesterday?
He was hurt, his hamstring. They don't think he's going to play.
All right. Well, that would be a big deal.
I think they'll beat him, though. I think the Pats will be ready to beat him.
Well, we'll see.
That offensive line, I'm really impressed with them.
Now we're galloping down the stretch of the baseball season. First, I guess we'll talk about something other than the Red Sox. The National League, it seems practically everybody in the league is still in it. In the East, it's predominantly Atlanta, several games up over Philadelphia. Two teams that nobody really expected anything from.
And if they make it to the World Series, the American League's going to be heavy favorites.
And then in the Central, the Cubs have played pretty well. They might be the best team, but Cardinals have been hanging in there. And then in the West, it's a three-way scramble.
Colorado, huh?
The Colorado, Arizona, and the Dodgers. The Dodgers might have the best players, but Colorado has been winning a lot. Trevor Story, probably saw the game where he had 3 home runs, including a 505-foot.
Yeah, in Denver.
Right, all against the same pitcher. You just sort of say, if I'd been in the game and given up 2 home runs, the guy's not getting another one down the middle. So, but Red Sox had an interesting series against the Astros. That the Astros right now look better than the Red Sox, and people are saying. Cora doesn't know how to use the bullpen. You got to be kidding me. He has nobody reliable to put in.
They're inconsistent.
Yeah.
It all depends. He has some arms in there. The guys that can throw in the upper 90s.
Yeah, pretty much everybody who comes in from every team is throwing 96 or above now.
What's going on with Kelly? Is he a head case?
I don't know.
He throws 100 miles an hour. He's got that curve.
Well, he doesn't seem to have great command. And he came out of the gate this year. He was really their top, other than Kimbrel, reliever. Lately, he's been really inconsistent. Hembry is inconsistent. Barnes is now hurt. Thornburg, who knows what's going on with him, still hurt. Now,
well, they're going to send some starters in the bowl.
The guy they have who will probably end up having an important role is Stephen Wright, who's throwing that slop up there with his knuckleball. But when everybody's seeing 96 and 100 and he comes in there and throws the knuckleball up there, it probably looks pretty hard to hit.
He may, if they need a 6th-inning pitcher to go, to go a couple of innings, he's a perfect guy.
Right.
A guy like him can stop any hitting team if his knuckle is working right.
Right. They even say that you see sometimes that the knuckleballer comes in for an extended period of time and then the team, they really get out of whack for the next day or two. So we'll see. It's a lot to put on his shoulders.
Who do you think this 4th starter is going to be?
After Price, Porcello, and Sale, I think it'll be Rodriguez. I think he's still got the best stuff. He got hit pretty hard the other day, but he's
it won't
got
be
the
Evaldi. It won't be Evaldi. It's got to be him.
No,
Evaldi's
got to go to the defense. The bullpen. So, and then Dustin Pedroia I know that they're talking about that he's going to come back again next year. You know, he's had, I don't know how many knee operations he's had altogether, but at some point along the way, you have to wonder whether he's ever going to be coming back.
You got to think he'll be all right next year. I mean, God, nowadays,
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that's almost a year and a half he'll be. I mean, unless he has problems, it could be worse than just the ligaments, right?
Well, I think it predominantly had cartilage, and
That's bad.
cartilage is not very, it doesn't have good blood flow to it, so it doesn't heal up well. I'm presuming he had a procedure where they grow your own cartilage and reinsert that, but we don't know but whatever they've done, he hasn't really gotten close to coming back.
That's the same problem Michelle, what's his name, for the Patriots has. He has that
Right.
same situation.
And Kobe Bryant had that at the end of his career. I think Amari Stoudemire had that with the Knicks. So we'll see. There's plenty of uncertainty. Neither Leon nor Vasquez has hit the ball at all lately, and Swihart, the fact that he's hit the ball has made his catching look better.
A lot of people saying that Vasquez shouldn't be on the playoff roster. I don't know
Well,
how they can say that.
Well, you know, you're only going to have two guys, and it looks like for sure that Swihart's going to be one of them. And at first base, Moreland, although he had the game-winning blue pit yesterday, I think he's 180 after the All-Star break. He hasn't really hit at all. So Nunez has been better. I don't know what the deal is on Phillips. I don't know I don't know if he's eligible even to be on the playoff
Well, they have him
roster.
working out at first base now, too.
Right. And obviously Phillips is a guy who's been around for a long time, made a big splash in his return down in Atlanta, hitting that ninth inning home run. But, you know, we'll see. It looks like there's still a tryout at catcher and first base.
How about Devers at third?
Same thing. You have Nunez versus Devers.
Nunez is playing pretty good over
yeah,
there.
he's a lot better defensively. And looks like a good move that they got Kinsler. I mean, he's pretty.
Oh, I like Kinsler a lot.
He hasn't hit for any power, but he's steady defensively.
He's the type of player that's going to come up with the big hits in the playoffs. He's that type of player.
Yeah, and the other player who seems to have broken the second half jinx is Bogarts. He's hit the ball pretty well lately.
4 for 4 yesterday.
Yeah, and Betts had multiple hits in every game of the series, and he was a pest. So, you know, Betts and Bogarts have not been good in the postseason, so we'll see. The guy who's looked shakier in the outfield as far as offensively is Benintendi. He's kind of cooled off.
Yeah, he's down to 290. And J.D. Martinez is in a little slump. But he's still getting the RBIs. But I think he was 0 for 5 one game, then 1 for 4.
Well, he had the 3-run homer last night, and I think he had 4 RBIs. So if he were thinking about a triple crown, it looks like Betts has put some distance between himself and Martinez.
That's going to be interesting. Who do you think the Red Sox are going to be rooting for, the Yankees or Oakland?
You know, I don't really know. The Red Sox really don't match up great against any of those teams, mostly because their bullpen is so weak.
Yeah.
And because they have starters, Sale and Price throw so, and even Porcello, they throw so many pitches. They're really 6-inning pitchers now. So then you're left with the, I guess you call it the wheel of misfortune as far as the bullpen. Kimbrel's looked a little bit better lately, but leading up to that, who knows?
But Price and Sale are going to be huge. I mean, if Sale's all right, he's not going to have a tired arm, that's for sure.
Oh, he should be rested. He hasn't.
I mean, he's going to have a
pitched since
strong arm.
July.
Is his shoulder going to be all right? If his shoulder's okay, he's going to be tough in the playoffs this year because of the rest he's gotten.
Right.
Price is the key because if he pitches the way he's been pitching, and they have Seals with a strong arm, you go those two guys back to back, they get a good chance of winning both of those games.
Well, Price has been tough because he's coming into the right-handers and then he throws the cutter away, trying the back door, and
His control has been unbelievable, Price.
he has been very good, and he's getting a lot of strikeouts with a changeup too.
But like you said, if they're going to go 6 or 7, how many pitches are they going to throw to get to the 7th inning? If they've thrown over 100 pitches by the 6th inning, then they're in tough shape
Well,
because now you got to go to your bullpen.
Right, you wonder if they're going to back off on Porcello down the stretch, like you discussed they needed to do a couple of years ago. Try to limit his pitch count, or at least innings, however you want to do it, and accept the results, whatever they are.
Well, look at the Yankees with Severino. Before his last start before the All-Star game, you could see he wasn't the same pitcher. Give the guy a rest. I mean, they got the playoffs sewed up now. Let him miss 2 starts. Give him a rest. Let him get his arm strong again because he's not the same pitcher. And they just keep pitching him, just like the Red Sox did over the last few years.
Well, and what we're seeing so often now is the pitchers at a younger age are injuring their ulnar collateral ligament. You have Ohtani on the Angels, who he's only had about 250 at-bats. He looks like a guy who's going to hit 35, 40 homers a year if he's playing every day. But they say he needs Tommy John surgery. So do you want to take him out of the lineup, or do you say, like, well, just, give up pitching? I mean, that's...
Let me ask you something. What's the difference? Juan Marichal, Don Drysdale, Gibson, Palmer, Mickey Lolich, all those pitchers. They had 3 days rest, and they pitched. They never missed a start, never had a bad arm.
Well, none of them can comb their hair now.
But really, what's the difference nowadays? That they're not pitching enough, that they're babying them.
That's what Nolan Ryan would say. You have to throw to keep your arm strong or get your arm strong. I don't know if there's something else different in the regime, but certainly you saw guys regularly throw 300 innings. Now, if somebody makes to 200 innings, it's a big deal.
And how about Denny McLain? Is he the last 31?
31 games in 1968.
And he started how many games? 40-something games?
Oh, I don't even know. Probably the most incredible season in the modern era was Bob Gibson in 1968. An ERA of a 1.12. I think he was 22-9. He lost 7 games, 1-0.
And how many complete games did those pitchers have back then?
Probably all of them. And Gibson, he had one game where he pitched, I think he pitched an inning and 2/3 and gave up 5 runs. Other than that, his ERA probably would have been under 1 for the season.
But how about LA, though, when they had Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax, and was it Johnny Padres?
Yeah. Well, if you look at after age 30, Drysdale and Koufax together only won 52 games. And I think Drysdale won 50 of them. So they do try to preserve the pitcher's arm somehow, but something is amiss when so many pitchers require arm surgery. We'll be right back. Our final segment will be the grab bag of what are we going to talk about now. Start with high school sports. Melrose football opened up with a 40-7 win over Malden. Danny Ventura has Melrose listed first in the North in their division, and it remains to be seen. This week they're playing Lincoln Sudbury, who's a pretty big school, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that was a good win for them. I guess Pete's their leading runner.
I think he had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's good. They lost Seed, of course, to Everett, who had 3 touchdowns for Everett.
Yeah, he had Seed had something like 168 yards rushing on 14 carries for Everett.
And they asked him a question. He goes, playing for Melrose and now playing for them. And he goes, football's football,
Good answer.
But it's good to see Pete, because those are the 2 guys we loved when they were sophomores. We loved Pete and we loved Seed. And, in the Melrose program, year to year, you're a different player. And now Pete's going to be the big running back. They have another younger back. I wasn't at the game, but I want to go see Lincoln Sudbury game.
Well, field hockey won their first game the other day. I saw the team getting ready to board the bus. I want to say they beat Arlington 1-0, but they have a lot of athletes on that team. And the girls look really impressive as far as physically looked like they'd trained really hard. Some of them probably spending time in the weight room. And, I was really was remarkable, the quality of the athletes they have. So good luck to them.
Where'd you see them?
They were just getting ready to get on the bus, like the Cunninghams, I believe.
Oh, they're on that?
Yeah,
They're playing field hockey?
I think so. So, I mean, they have, superior athletes. Anyway, and volleyball's off to a 2-0 start. They have a big game this week against Woburn over at Woburn. They have to replace over 500 kills from graduating seniors last year, not to mention Lily Fitzgerald, who's playing college volleyball. I want to say it's Skidmore. So far, Kiki Kiernan's done a really good job at setter.
What year is she in?
She's a sophomore. They have a freshman setter who's promising but hasn't seen action yet.
She's on the varsity?
Autumn Whalen. And Melrose has a lot of strength up the middle. Steve Karampoulos calls them the M&Ms. Emma Randolph and Emily Hudson, the M&Ms. And they had a terrific game against Arlington last week. I think they combined for 19 kills. They had a lot of blocks and just were dominant up the middle. They also have Sam Dewey, who's going to be a strong player. And they have a lot of...
Who's the outside hitters?
You have Erin Torpy, who's comes back off a big year last year. She's a full-time volleyball player. Grace Davis is playing on opposite. And Sophia Centrella, I call her no conscience because she's up there to hit. And that's how she played basketball too. No, she's right-handed. So she's not tall, but she's really got a lot of ups, and she is definitely willing to hit.
Does she have a sister that's a twin?
Adriana's her sister.
She on it?
She's on JV.
So Adriana's the better basketball player, right? The lefty?
They're similar.
And the sister's the better volleyball player right now.
And then, of course, you have Nicole Abbott, who's a terrific defender at libero. She has a chance to be as good as any of the liberos have ever been. In my blog, I had an article recently about comparison, and Teddy Roosevelt says, comparison is the thief of joy. And Melrose has had some terrific libero play in the past from numerous, all the way, once upon a time, more players played all around. Very few players play all around now. But you have Jill and Caitlin McGinnis were both terrific in the back. Kerry Dillon was really terrific. So they have a lot of great defenders. Mary-Kate Mahoney is doing a great job in the back as well.
Yeah, they have a very good back row.
And they're still, it's early in the season, and one thing, anybody who's watched Melrose volleyball for a long time knows that Coach Shelley is not afraid to make changes if a player is struggling or if a player is performing really well in practice. They have a chance to move up. So Leah Heafy got a good opportunity as the designated server the other day. I think she was 6 for 6. And you have other players.
Young?
She's a sophomore. And they have a lot of harder servers like Nicole. Nicole serves the ball pretty hard.
Well, Nicole's an athlete. I mean, she competes.
Yeah,
and Mary Kate competes, so those two in the back row.
Right. So you have, kind of goes with the Sister Act theme that Nicole's sister Alyssa played on the state championship team, and she was a very talented back row player and server. And of course, Erin's sister Kat played on the team a couple of years ago, another strong player. So that theme of sisters coming along in the program is big, and it looks like the junior varsity has a few strong players that'll be competitive coming forward. So volleyball looks like their reign at the top of the Middlesex League is still in progress. They have a very attractive schedule of non-league games this year too. As usual, they play Central Catholic, they play Arlington Catholic, and I think they play Westboro this year.
Any of them at home?
I think the Central game is at home, and I think Westboro is also home. Westboro won the state championship last year.
What time is the game Wednesday against Woburn?
I think it's 5. you'll have to check on that. Coach Shelley is an advocate of the varsity team playing second to get bigger attendance and more families to see the games easier. That's not a uniform opinion throughout the Middlesex League. So that's not saying it's wrong, it's just saying that some of the athletic directors want the varsity to play in the first game, and Melrose has preferred to have the varsity play in the second game. Thought we'd talk a little bit about who is the greatest athlete ever. And we haven't talked about this, so I'm going to let Ralph go first, and he can throw out.
I'd say it's a tie. The greatest athletes ever, I would say it's Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell at a tie for the best athletes ever.
Okay. Sports Illustrated, no, correction. The Sports Science had an analysis of athletes, and they looked at production, strength, clutch performance, and their final two were Jim Brown and Bo Jackson.
I knew it was going to be Bo Jackson was going to be one because he played baseball too.
Jim Brown, I think, is the only player who's had a career where he averaged over 100 yards per game, and he not only did that, some people consider him the greatest lacrosse player who's ever played. He was a high school basketball star. He was a track star at Syracuse, and obviously he was a Hall of Fame football player. Now, Bo Jackson has another interesting set of statistics. Jackson, as a high schooler, won the Alabama high school decathlon twice. The first time he went, people said, "You should compete in this." He says, "What are the events?" He didn't even know. He just showed up, won, and set the high school record in the decathlon. He set the national high school record in home runs as a high school in Alabama. He went on to become an all-star in both baseball and football in major leagues. I think he's the only person who's ever done it in the same year. I think he and Willie Mays might be the only player to have a home run and a stolen base in the same all-star game. And Jackson also won a Heisman Trophy at Auburn, helping Auburn to break the streak of or Alabama beating Auburn. So
yeah, but who is your best athlete? You said that's theirs. Who's yours?
I always thought it was Jackson. I've never seen the combination of strength and power and speed.
What about brains?
They said if they extrapolated his running time, he would have been second in the Olympics. I think it was during the time that Carl Lewis was running. That's how fast he was.
You mentioned winners too. That was part of it.
Well, no,
Who's a better winner than Bill Russell?
No, I mean,
Bill, how many NBA titles did he have coaching and playing?
He had.
Was it 11?
He had 11 NBA titles.
Yeah, how about NBA? How about college championships too?
He had 2 in college. He had an Olympic.
An Olympic.
And
so by far, you have to say he's the best athlete.
You'd have to say Russell's the greatest winner of all time. Chamberlain has his own argument in his favor. Chamberlain was a hurdler and also a phenomenal volleyball player. Some people say he's the best volleyball player. I mean, I can't imagine what his total vertical jump.
And he averaged how many, 50-some points a game, and he scored 100 one game?
Yeah, right. So Chamberlain, phenomenal. It's hard to, we didn't see Jim Thorpe.
I mean, I'm a big, fan of Jim Brown. Jim Brown was the greatest football player ever. So, I could see them saying, when you said Jim Brown, I said, yeah, probably Jim Brown. I would say the 3 of them. Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Jim Brown.
Well,
the 3 greatest.
In 1992, Bo Jackson had to have a hip replacement done for he had aseptic necrosis of the hip after a dislocation.
Yeah, that was bad.
So the interesting thing is he came back to play professional baseball after the hip replacement. The next year he had 16 home runs, and the following year he had 13 home runs. And maybe the most amazing statistic of all is he had a stolen base with an artificial hip, which I don't even know how that's possible. Now he mostly spends his time bow hunting. He's just apparently phenomenal at bow hunting. But again, usually you can't talk about, when you talk about baseball players, I don't know who you would say was the greatest athlete, or pure baseball players. Mickey Mantle, obviously, was
Willie Mays,
yeah.
Joe DiMaggio.
So, but I guess I'll go with Bo Jackson. Kind of unbelievable clips of him. There's one where he makes a catch in the outfield and literally runs up the outfield wall, takes 3 steps, and he said, well, it's no big deal because I used to do that all the time when I was a kid. He was another interesting fact about Bo Jackson is he never lifted weights. He grew up doing sit-ups and push-ups. He said, well, I didn't really have any weights, and I didn't really have a reason to. But anyway.
I wouldn't put him in my top 10. He's just not a winner. He wasn't a winner, Ron.
Well,
that's got to be a big part of it. I mean, you compare Bo Jackson to Bill Russell and Jim Brown.
Well,
I mean,
I just think as from a standpoint of pure athleticism, Bo Jackson is up there.
Okay.
So, I don't have winning as a sole criterion. To me, if you look at the greatest, people talk about the Mount Rushmore of basketball players like Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, Larry Bird. I say that's all fine. You can have Mount Rushmore. Bill Russell's on Mount Olympus as compared because Russell is the greatest winner ever. He had 14 championships in 15 seasons. And one year that he didn't win the championship was because he was injured and he didn't play in the postseason.
To me, it's very easy when you talk about the 5 greatest basketball players. It's very easy to put Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Jabbar, LeBron James, and Jordan. I mean, those 5. I'm not putting them.
No,
that's not. But those are the 5.
Right. I mean, a lot of people list Jordan and as though he is head and shoulders above everybody else, and I think most of those people never saw Russell play.
I mean, if Russell was playing in this day and age, he would have been stronger. I mean, the different foods, he'd be stronger. Instead of being 6'9" back then, where he'd be playing at 6'11". I mean, when you look at it that way.
Right.
And if you look at Jordan playing back when he played, Jordan would probably have been about 6'3" or 6'4" back then. Wouldn't have been as quick, different foods. So you look at Russell in his era, and you look at Jordan in his era, you can't compare it.
Right. It's much like people try to compare Jesse Owens and Usain Bolt, and they say, well, Owens' time was a lot slower. Well, they ran on cinder tracks. They didn't have the current equipment they have. They don't have the training that they have. They don't have the nutrition. So when you correct for all those things, I'm not saying that Jesse Owens would have been as fast as Usain Bolt, but it would have been a lot closer than people project. Now, as far as coaching, if we look specifically about which coach in Boston is the best coach right now, it's hard because you have different players. I mean, I think Cora has gotten a lot out of the players he have, and you can make the argument the Red Sox have the highest payroll, so it's not like he didn't have a lot to work with too.
It's very simple if you're talking coach, not general manager and coach, but the best coach is Belichick, by far.
Well, certainly
right now,
when you have the
not the best general manager.
When you have the championship, right? If you have the championships that he does and the Super Bowl rings that he does, you cannot give him credit for that. Obviously, the Patriots drafting, this year most of the draft choices are on injured reserve.
But when I say that Brady covers for a lot of Belichick's errors, those are general manager errors, not coaching errors.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, as a coach, he's got to be the best. And I would say it's just about a tie with the other 3 in the big sports, right now.
Yeah, I think I'd probably rate Stevens higher than Cora just because he's had a longer term.
I think Stevens is going to be a great coach someday, but he's not a great coach right now. He's a good coach. Him and Snyder are the 2 top as far as.
Well, I think it's always about having great talent. The better your talent is, the better you're going to look as a coach.
Look at it's very simple. Stevens made mistakes. in the playoffs. You know, I've seen Stevens. I mean, the biggest mistake he made is in the final game against Cleveland when Tatum was hot and he didn't get the ball again, and he brings Rozier in, who was 0 for 9 at the time, and he takes 3 more three-pointers and clanks them all. You get Tatum feeling great about the stuff over LeBron, the three-point shot right after that. Then he doesn't touch the ball. I mean, if you're a coach, Ron, you're going to say, and then you had Brown who wasn't shooting well, Smart wasn't shooting well, Tatum had it going. Run a play for Tatum in those situations.
Well, you had the two teams, the Rockets and the Celtics, who didn't go to the finals, had just abysmal shooting. I think the Rockets even shot worse than the Celtics, which is hard to believe. But you know, if you go online and look at the Rockets shot chart, especially in the second half, they just didn't make anything.
But the good thing is, in all 4 big sports in Boston, all 4 coaches are good coaches. You can't knock any of them. I mean, I think they're all very good coaches, you know, and I think Belichick's a great coach, and I think Stevens is going to be a great coach the more he coaches in the NBA. But, you know, seeing every Celtic game, you know my feeling of how he handled the younger guys.
Well, it'll be interesting. The Celtics' first draft choice, Robert Williams, was being interviewed. He's there at 8 in the morning. Well, here I'm in here at working out, and it's 8 in the morning and so forth. And they said, "What time did Horford and Baines get here?" 6 o'clock. So I don't think we have to worry about Horford and Baines' jobs getting taken over by Williams.
I just hope he listens to Horford. I mean, Williams could have a great future, but he needs to listen to someone like Horford and the coaching staff. Because he's very immature right now.
Right. The key for young players, in addition to developing their total skill, is to learn how to be a professional. You know, you have to be a professional in how you take care of your body, the sleep you get, the nutrition, the whole package that goes into being a professional. And you can say, well, I worked out for 3 hours and, you know, I got a nap in the afternoon, and then you're out in the club until, 1 in the morning, and now he's not old enough to drink legally, but I mean, if anybody thinks none of these guys are home drinking, I don't know.
But the thing with Horford, he's a real pro. He's a real good guy, well respected. He's been an all-star. I think he earns his money more by being a leader on that team and people respecting him.
Well, I remember what Charles Barkley said when he joined the Philadelphia 76ers. He said Moses Malone took him under his wing. He said, "You're going to make a lot of money. Don't have an entourage. Don't give it away to your family. There's no reason to have 10 other hangers-on going around with you." You don't see that with Larry Bird. And Barkley, when he became a more veteran player, he tried to impart the same lessons to the younger players. And he said, they would just say, "Don't talk to me, old man. You're dogging me. You're not going to keep me down."
But 4 players, Ron, right? You think about it. J.D. Martinez, Brady, Bergeron, and Horford. All 4 of those teams have great leaders. And they're all very competitive, and they're right up there. Any of those teams could win it.
Right. There's a book by, I want to say his name is Sam White. That might not be right. It's called The Captain's Class. And he talks about dynasties through history and the leaders they had. Like Maurice Richard for the Canadians and Bill Russell for the Celtics and so forth, and how when players came on board, it changed the culture, it changed the results, and those teams will never be forgotten. So anyway, The Captain's Class, good book. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sten.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.